Welcome to the Professionals of the Inland Empire show with your host, John Tulac.
And welcome to Professionals of the Inland Empire, which we affectionately call PI. I'm John Tulac, your host. I'm an international business attorney located in Claremont, California, and it's my privilege to bring to you interviews with experts in their fields each week. They live and work in the Inland Empire and they serve the Inland Empire business community. And so these are people that you need to know because they really know what they're doing. And that's why I have them on guests on my show. So today we have a banking theme. We're going to be talking with Steve Nosenchuck from PNC Bank and Dorian Sandoval from Citizens Business Bank. And they are both in banking, but they do some very different things. And so we're going to see what they do and how they do it and what makes them special. So gentlemen, welcome to Professionals of the Inland Empire. It's great to have you with us today.
Thanks, John.
Let's start with you. You have been in banking for quite a while, and it also, I know, involves making the occasional move and rearrangement as you advance in your career. So tell us about yourself and where you are today and what you're doing.
Was that for me, John?
That was for you.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, missed that. Yes, I'm at PNC Bank. I'm a commercial banker. I work on the lower end of the middle market space, which means companies typically under $100 million in annual sales revenue. And we look for banking relationships. So we're looking for deposits, treasury management, operating lines of credit, equipment financing, real estate. The list goes on commercial banking of all different types of services and products that we can offer.
Okay, and tell us about PNC Bank. Not everybody knows about PNC Bank. Sometimes it's one of those better kept secrets in the banking world, at least in Southern California compared to some other parts of the country.
Well, that's right. PNC Bank purchased BBVA Compass here in Southern California about approximately 4 years ago. And PNC is Pittsburgh-based bank. It's the culmination between a Pittsburgh-based and a Philadelphia-based bank. And they combined and made PNC Bank. The bank itself is over 100 years old. They are the sixth largest bank in the country, behind some of the bigger names that everybody always recognizes. And they're making their way out west. They have a huge dominant market share on the East Coast, Midwest, and the South. And so they're pushing. And we recently did an acquisition of First Bank in Arizona and Colorado. So now we're the largest bank in Arizona and Colorado. So hopefully in the near future, we're going to be growing out here in California, and we already are. Our team is growing, our portfolio is growing, and our clients are really enjoying, having another option here in the marketplace.
In fact, Colorado is where I first heard of PNC Bank. It's been a number of years ago now, but it financed a project that my client helped develop, and then when it was time for the debt financing, PNC stepped into the project and did a good job. I know BBVA was a Spanish bank, and it was big in Mexico, big in Texas, not that big out here. But it did have a reputation for knowing what to do in international related business and banking. Yeah, how has that worked out? Is that something that's been absorbed into PNC Bank as an addition to its services?
Yeah, so international business, we conduct letters of credit, foreign exchange, help our clients conduct business overseas like that, whether it be through us directly or through correspondent banks.
Okay. All right, so next, let's go to Dorian and get the story from Dorian. Dorian's with Citizens Business Bank and is in the headquarters office there in Ontario on Haven. So Dorian, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I'll give you the start to finish. I started in retail banking at Chase actually as a banker back in 2012. So been in the space in banking and the investment world over 13 years now. After a couple years at Chase, I actually got into the private banking world of Bank of New York Mellon, and proceeded to have an almost 10-year career in that space. So been with Citizens Business Bank now just over 2 years as a financial consultant. So everything wealth management related, everything from trust and estate planning, insurance solutions, down to the traditional retirement accounts in the investment world is my focus now. And here with Citizens Business Bank, really partnering with my commercial bankers, just like Steve, to bring a full wealth of products and solutions for our client base as part of the bigger picture. So enjoyed my time here, and yeah, that's my career in a nutshell.
Terrific. And so the difference here is in wealth management, it's like private wealth management within the bank for existing bank customers. And Steve, in commercial banking, you're really at the front lines, aren't you, in terms of attracting clients to the banks and then providing for their business needs. And unlike a banker that doesn't have an adjective in front of it, you're not after the personal bank accounts, and there are no toasters to give away from either of you, are there?
Correct. Yep, that's correct. Yeah, we're looking to grow our portfolio with new business clients. And most of the time that starts off with lending relationship, whether it's their current bank that isn't meeting their needs, or they're just looking for alternative relationships to see what else is out there.
Okay, and the difference between a bank that is kind of a retail bank, open to all and sundry kind of thing, and a bank that, even if it does do that, is in a particular way concentrating activity for the business community. How is that important to the business owner? I mean, it seems no bank can be without business people as clients, and no company should ever be without a good business bank. So how do you bring those things together? What's the secret sauce for that?
Yeah, it's interesting because PNC doesn't have a large retail footprint here in California. Traditionally, commercial banks don't really need a large footprint. We try to aim to keep our clients out of the bank, not because we don't want them there, but because time is money. And if they're spending time in the branch, they're not making money unless they've got good investments, maybe. But so we will help them with remote deposit where they can deposit their checks remotely. We give them a scanner and they can remote deposit them. They can have a lockbox, wires, ACHs, basically anything we can do to bring the bank to them so that they don't necessarily have to come to the bank or have one of their employees come to the bank.
Okay. So again, this is something that has evolved over time. It used to be that you were a regular at the bank, and
Mhm.
oftentimes it was the owner of the company who made the deposits because it was necessary to network, to make sure that the banker knew you were still around and doing well, and that you could preview an upcoming need before you went and made the ask. But
Definitely.
it's possible to do remotely. Does
Yeah, everything can be done remotely nowadays with a conversation. We obviously want to maintain that open dialogue with our clients and prospects in order to be able to help satisfy those needs and have those upcoming conversations. And to your point, networking and bringing people together is a huge part of it because you're not in the branch. Bringing people together and connecting people with other professionals inside of the arena that they're in or are looking to be in is a key component that I feel like is something that a banker and any professional today needs to be able to bring to their clients.
Sure, that makes absolute sense. And Dorian, the value added proposition that you bring to the table is that literally under one roof, they can do a lot through the bank, including taking care of their wealth, taking care of their finances, doing estate planning with someone that they trust. Even though you're not going to be sitting there writing a trust and will, that's not your job. But getting all of that prepared so that they can including providing for business succession planning, having that trusted advisor is another key part of any business's team. So that's a valuable service.
100%. I'd say, across the banking landscape, and, let's be honest here, banking over the years, especially now in this new age and some of the notes that Steve was saying, we're seen as a commodity, right? And I think some of the themes around, serving your client base, your customer, much like any industry that you really try to put your best foot forward for the benefit of the client. I think maybe the misunderstanding and maybe the misinformation around seeing all aspects of the balance sheet, seeing all aspects of a client's worth, whether it be personal or business related, um, really gets missed, I think. And most banks have a similar setup, I'll say, right? It's not something unique necessarily to Citizens Business Bank, but having the right trusted partner, I think, is key, as you mentioned, to be able to facilitate, those solutions that don't come readily, to mind when you're thinking traditional retail banking, right? How can a business owner, leverage a credit need that may not be necessarily available in the traditional commercial lending or traditional, small business loan avenue, if you will, and partnering that with, anything available in the wealth management side or in the investment world to come up with a solution that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So we like to think that, bringing that well-rounded approach provides those other solutions, to be that trusted partner, when the clients need, those solutions.
And it's certainly handy to have someone in the same place where you develop a relationship with one banker and you find that works well. You're going to tend to find that under the same tent roof, you're going to have another good relationship so that back and forth stuff works pretty well. I'm thinking about my engagements with bankers over the years for my clients in international business, how things have evolved. I mean, nobody talks about bankers' acceptances or bills of exchange or, when's the last time you ever saw a traveler's letter of credit kind of thing. All that paper stuff has long gone with the wind. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how banking it has changed and where it's going. One of the things is everything's electronic. Everything is 100 times faster. So how does that change the banking relationship where speed now is of the essence? What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, well, I think that it's just a kind of a fact of life of where we're at right now, with the internet and e-commerce and people wanting to have everything more faster, at their fingertips, the ability to control it from anywhere that they're at, whether they're on vacation or they're at a client's site, the ability to conduct business no matter where you're at is a real luxury. It also opens up potential opportunity for fraud, though, on the opposite end, because everything's kind of digital now as well. So that's one of the key factors that is on bankers' minds nowadays is how to prevent fraud.
Yeah, because the bad guys embrace technology faster than everybody, and then we have to catch up to catch them, and then to make sure they don't do anything like that again. And by the time we've got that figured out, they figured out something new to zap
Yep,
businesses, and they attack the banks too, find ways to try and cheat you.
correct.
Yeah, it seems it's a little bit more of a gentler pace on your side of the aisle in the banking world, Dorian, where you don't have to deal with the speed necessarily the same way. Would that be right?
Yeah, I'd see we've definitely seen in the investment world. So in my private banking career, I was wearing kind of both hats as a private banker and a financial advisor. So saw a little bit of both, both sides of the aisle. Definitely the advancement of DocuSign and e-signature has brought up, some of those pros and cons that Steve mentioned. I'd say, and Steve, I'm sure would agree with this, you know, regardless of how fast technology moves and our capacity to do some of these transactions. I relate, to primary subjects that no person can escape is our health and our wealth, right, in the society that we live in. So there's still a place where you need that, let's call it human interaction. That's somebody you can go and talk to, whether it be a video, right? You're still talking to an individual. So I'm eager to see what the future comes as far as technology and the advancements. But I think in our world, specifically in the finance world, they're still going to maintain, that certain level of human touch and interaction that's that's going to stay. And especially on my side, when you're thinking about, planning for the future or planning, business succession and what might be the right moves, I think there will, at least for the near future in my lifetime, will still maintain a lot of that human interaction.
Well, I would hope so because you want trusted advisors advising you, not artificial intelligence. I mean, you can get a certain amount of information, but not knowledge out of talking to your chat bots. I mean, I hate that on customer support side of things. You get a chat bot. I'm sorry, I don't understand that. No, I don't understand anything. Give me a real person, please.
Well, you can have fun with those and make them hallucinate, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, you definitely do that. We don't want bankers hallucinating. You have $200 million in your account. No, I don't think that's a good idea. But growing the money, I mean, that used to be part of banking, and that's something that has changed. Is that used to be a serious part of your financial planning, is that you would have a savings account and it would actually earn some real interest, which is pretty much no longer extant in the banking world today. You have to go elsewhere for that decent return, and that's where Dorian comes in. But there's no substitute for liquidity, which is why you still need the bank, and you still need somebody to be able to take your deposit, give you a receipt, and when you need the cash, that's more than what the machine can give you. You've got to still go inside and interact with somebody, right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
So where does this go? And I'm thinking, first let's talk maybe a little bit about banks and safety. We've got the best floor, if you will, in the entire world in terms of protections for bank customers and for the relationships between and among banks. The system works really, really well. And a lot of it works on full faith and credit because you have experts dealing with this. Where do you see that going? I mean, is this something that gets more resilience over time, or is this something that gets shakier over time as things develop?
Well, I think personally that it's going to become more resilient, especially with development of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. I think that blockchain technology has a lot of positive attributes that it will be able to. You can trace it. It's something that it can be stolen, but you can also find it because of the technology behind it. So I think that we're just at the beginning stages of this technology. The banks haven't fully, there hasn't been any real government regulation, is really what it is from a national standpoint. So there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are out there right now, but I think that eventually there will be some currencies that will become the dominant currencies out there, and then we'll start utilizing blockchain technology that is the foundation of cryptocurrencies as a way of a ledger, for a ledger of these transactions. And there's lots of different ways that blockchain can be utilized, and cryptocurrencies are just one example of it. And I do think that it will help in a lot of ways. I mean, look, the banks are still utilizing checks here in the United States, which is very outdated, and so much so that many parts of the world don't use checks. There's a lot of information on a check, and that's where a lot of fraud can come from. You've got your bank account number, your routing number, your signature, the name of your business, your address, your phone number, everything's on there, right? So I think that as we move towards blockchain and cryptocurrencies, that we've got a way of hopefully reducing some of the fraud.
I think blockchain will be very helpful in that regard. And I can't wait to see it more utilized with respect to letters of credit. I mean, years and years ago, I gave an MCLE talk for lawyers, and I originally entitled it Letters of Credit Made Easy. And the organizers of that particular conference said, no one's going to believe that. So in the early days of computers, I did a strike through and then handwritten over it was Letters of Credit Explained, which I read was hilarious.
Right, exactly.
But the SWIFT system, as good as it is, does not prevent certain kinds of fraud connected with a letter of credit, where I think blockchain, along with letters of credit, would really make a difference. And then in your world, Dorian, I'm sure everybody asks you about crypto and whether they should invest in it. But blockchain, to the extent that it's becoming involved in financial transactions and again, to prevent fraud or alterations of contracts and so on, is really a really good development.
100%. I'd say, with many industries, there's the early adopters, right? In the finance world, typically banks are never the first ones to jump in, right? There's an application, there's a test case for, a type of industry that takes hold. And I think a point that Steve made holds true until it becomes more, or until it becomes used on a mass scale with our U.S. government and tying into the banking and financial world, investment firms alike. And we have some more broader applications that can be applied, but also applied with those themes in mind, the security aspect. Then, you're going to see more of the solutions come into the fold and how they're then used to help support, our traditional financial services that we provide. Some of the bigger firms out there, JP Morgan, I know, has a couple of them that are starting to get into that world regarding blockchain and that whole technology. I think it's still a few years away until we see mass adoption and mass application for that. But yeah, definitely where we're going. AI is here, right? I know this is not a topic about AI, but especially in the financial world, it's coming whether we like it or not. And now it's just making sure that, in the right sectors, it's applied for everybody's benefit, I think is the main idea.
Yeah, but again, I would hope it will never replace human beings anytime soon. I can just see someone coming in and asking for a loan to a robot. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. No.
No, I hope not. Then I'd be out of job and I'd have to look for another industry.
We need the human interface even for a no that we don't want to hear, I think. So one of the things that I really miss in the banking world, and it really went away for good after the Great Recession, it seemed, is trade finance. That used to be a bread and butter thing of banks, is to be able to fund an acquisition of goods for resale, especially if you were a trader and you were in the middle, buying here, reselling there, and taking advantage of an arbitrage, and so on. And banks had whole departments devoted to this. And after the Great Recession, it went away and never came back. And I was, where did they go? Where did the traders go when they left banking?
I think they're still out there. I don't deal with that, to your point, on a regular basis. It's not something that I'm involved with.
Yeah, and it's probably not something that comes up with your clients, Dorian, either. When let's talk about trade finance.
Yeah, listen, in my private banking career, I definitely had exposure to that world. Now and kind of tying into the where we're at, in this point in time, I think there's been some of that's run off to the private space, the private equity and VC space. And you've seen that coming up over the past several years. But in the traditional sense that you refer to, John, yeah, it is just I think a moment of the time or a result of the times. Yeah, it comes up periodically. But yeah, it's not the common question that I'm hearing anymore.
Just one of the many things that has changed in the banking world. So with the last bit of our time together, keeping up. How do you keep up so that you are always well able to serve your customers? Steve, I'll go back to you on that one.
Yeah, I'm involved with several different professional networking groups and organizations. Risk management is one of them. Cal CPA, Provisors, ACG, talking with other professionals in the organizations, as well as my clients and prospects, to find out what they're looking at, what their pulse on the world is, because ultimately they've got their fingers on the pulse with their clients more than I do, right? So it's funny because many times and oftentimes they'll come to me and ask me what I see, and really I'm just taking the pulse of my clients and then letting them know kind of what I see back from my clients.
Okay. And Dorian?
Yeah, I think a similar theme. I try not to pretend to be everything and know everything. It's never served me well in my early career. But I'll say leaning on the network for those that are in the different industry types, right? For something that you don't hear that comes across your desk necessarily, but you have people that you can rely on in your network to address and help get informed when something like that comes up. I'll say in both our worlds, right, in Steve's world and my world, definitely in the investment world, everybody's a professional and an expert now with Google and the internet, right? And now with the advancement of AI, right? So there's a little bit of there's some hindrance there for the masses, right? Not obviously everybody, but everybody is an expert. And I think for me, anyways, I try to be informed in the topics that are relevant, and I try not to get bogged down with the wealth of news streams and headlines that come around, because we could be sitting at our computer reading all that stuff all day. But what I like to focus on is the recurring themes as it relates to my industry and how I help clients, and do my best to accommodate as things progress and continue to grow in our space.
Well, you both hit on the things that I've noticed, that the best bankers are well informed about economic conditions, particularly the local conditions in and around the community and the greater community, and are really good in terms of being networked with other people that can be of assistance to their clients. So I want to thank both of you, Dorian and Steve, for being on Professional of the Inland Empire today. Everybody needs a good banker. Here are a couple of them. So if you're not happy with your banker, which I hear from time to time, you can vote with your feet and leave and go to a place where you'll be well welcomed by people who know what they're doing. That's who we feature on Professional of the Inland Empire. And by the way, if you're watching these episodes and you like what you see, tell us about it. Leave a comment, give us a like, mention us on LinkedIn, follow us on LinkedIn. We've got a group link going on that now. So show us you care, show us you love it, so we can keep this going. Well, we're going to do that anyhow. We'll be
Thanks,
back
John.
with another episode. We're going to take a little break during the holidays, but we'll be getting ready for the new year with more episodes featuring professionals who live and work near you. For now, so long and happy holidays.
Thanks for watching or listening to, depending on the case, the Professionals of the Inland Empire show with your host, John W. Tulac. If you have a suggestion for a guest, email him at jwtulac, that's JWTULAC @gmail.com. jwtulac @gmail.com.